Stop. Listen. Pay attention. Chosen one. This is not background noise. This is not a passing thought you can push aside. Right now, in this very moment, something in the air around you has shifted, and it has been building quietly, persistently, long before you noticed. You may have felt fatigue pressing in from all directions, an almost physical heaviness that no amount of rest seemed to lighten. You may have sensed pressure in your mind and body that was subtle, yet relentless, like the weight of something unseen, something that required your attention even when your focus was elsewhere. Chosen one. The tension you have carried is real. You have moved through days filled with doubt, nights spun with unresolved thoughts, and moments where even ordinary decisions felt like crossing an invisible divide. This was not coincidence. This was not happenstance. The pattern of heaviness, the quiet insistence that something needed to be addressed, has followed you for a reason. And today this message reaches you intentionally. It is not a general broadcast. It is personal, meant to intersect exactly where you are, with what you have endured, and with the resilience you have already shown. You may have thought the confusion was yours alone, a product of overthinking, of misaligned timing, or perhaps a flaw in judgment. But what you are experiencing is not an error. It is a signal. The weight in your chest, the subtle unrest in your mind, the moments where everything seemed suspended, these are markers. They indicate that forces around you, not always visible, have been shifting, rearranging, testing the fabric of your endurance. And through it all, you have remained functional. You have continued to move forward, even when the path was unclear, even when clarity seemed distant. This message will not overwhelm you. It will not ask you to fight or to act recklessly. Instead, it is designed to give you perspective, to help you recognize that what you have lived through has been structured, coordinated, and intentional in ways you may not yet fully grasp. You are on the receiving end of experiences that many would struggle to understand, and yet here you are. Calm, present. Even under pressure, you have maintained a baseline of stability that few can claim. Chosen one. What follows is not speculation or story. It is observation. It is the illumination of patterns you already sensed, but could not name. There is clarity to be gained here, and it begins with simply noticing that what you thought was random, heavy, or isolating was in fact purposeful. The unfolding of this message will give language to what you have already endured, and offer the first layers of understanding for the strength that has quietly accompanied you through it all. You are not alone in your experience, though you may have felt so. You are not fragile, though the pressure was immense. And you are not unprotected, though it may have felt otherwise. Right now, chosen one. Pause, listen, and receive this. The journey you have walked, the weight you have borne, and the endurance you have displayed, all of it has been recognized. And it has prepared you for understanding what is being revealed next. Chosen one. This message is for you and only you. There is no ambiguity here. If you have felt isolated, burdened, or misaligned with the world around you, it is because your path has required an identity that is distinct, precise, and unshakable. You are not simply another person moving through ordinary circumstances. You are recognized by the quiet architecture of strength that exists within you. The kind of strength that does not always announce itself, but is reliable, consistent, and operative, even when you are unaware of it. You may have assumed that your endurance was the result of conscious effort alone, that every step forward required deliberate willpower, careful planning, and constant vigilance. But the truth is deeper than that. Beneath the surface, beneath the visible choices and apparent actions, there has been an automatic resistance, a steady internal coherence that has supported you in ways you could not see. While the world tested your resolve, and while circumstances pushed, pulled, and even seemed to break, your internal framework remained intact. You did not collapse. You did not falter beyond recovery. This is not happenstance. Chosen one. What has unfolded in your life has involved you directly. Every encounter, every period of tension, every moment where fatigue pressed in these events were not peripheral. They were not background noise. They required your presence, your endurance, your stability. And though the moments may have felt disjointed, unfair, or even overwhelming at times, there has been a through line, your ability to maintain composure, to function, to navigate uncertainty without losing the essential coherence of who you are. It is important to recognize the difference between conscious struggle and unconscious stability. There are many who expend enormous energy to appear strong, who force themselves to endure by sheer will only to fracture when the unexpected arises. You, however, have been operating on both levels. You have engaged consciously with what you can see and manage, and unconsciously, a structure of resilience has carried you. It has absorbed shocks, buffered pressures, and allowed you to remain operational when others would have broken. This is the quiet signature of the chosen one identity. It is not a title you claim. It is a reality you embody through the interplay of visible actions and invisible strength. There is no need to justify it. No need to seek recognition, no need to rationalize why you have endured what you have. It exists. It has always existed. And it has always worked with you, not apart from you, in every circumstance that demanded more than ordinary human capacity. Chosen one. Understand this: being marked by such resilience does not mean life has been easy, nor does it mean you have been shielded from hardship. What it does mean is that your internal structure, your core identity, has been sufficient to carry the weight placed before you. You have survived, adapted, and continued. And this message will guide you to see the design within the tension, the purpose within the endurance, and the calm beneath the surface of what felt chaotic. There is one symptom that has likely followed you more closely than you realized. Chosen one. A persistent gnawing fatigue that never seems fully explained. It lingers in the back of your mind, settles in your muscles, and sometimes weighs on your chest as if invisible hands were pressing down. You may have blamed it on too many responsibilities, on sleep that never feels enough, or on circumstances that demanded more than your body and mind could comfortably provide. But this symptom is not what it seems. It is not a flaw. It is a signal. The fatigue you feel is a marker of transition, a tangible response to pressure that exists beyond your immediate perception. Your nervous system, your mind, your awareness, they all respond to layers of tension that the ordinary observer cannot detect. When life pushed against you, when choices were unclear and obstacles multiplied, your system absorbed and adapted. This fatigue is the residue of resilience, not weakness. It reflects your body and mind, processing experiences, calibrating responses, and maintaining stability, even when the external world felt unpredictable. Chosen one. It is easy to judge yourself for these sensations. It is easy to think that something is wrong with you, that your body is failing, or that your mind is overreacting. But what you are experiencing is neither error nor limitation. It is information. It is a signal that your inner architecture is working quietly to sustain your presence. Where others might have collapsed under the same weight, your system remained alert, functional, and regulated. Every twinge of fatigue, every moment of tension, is a proof point your internal mechanisms are aligned with demands far beyond ordinary thresholds. Consider how often you have noticed subtle stress manifesting in tension, irritability, or a sense of being slightly unmoored. These are not flaws to be corrected. They are evidence of discernment, sensitivity, and attunement to forces both internal and external. You have felt pressure where others felt nothing. You have recognized imbalance before it became visible, and you have maintained performance even in the presence of ambiguity. The fatigue, the low-level unease, the energy that waxes and wanes. These are all indicators that your system is engaged in higher-order regulation. This perspective changes everything. The tension that seemed unfair, that appeared to mark you as different or inadequate, is actually a confirmation. It signals that your body, mind, and focus are processing transitions, calibrating your capacities, and preparing you for challenges that require a coherence many never develop. You are not malfunctioning. You are responding appropriately to forces that are often invisible, coordinated, and intentional. Chosen one. The discomfort is temporary, but the signal it conveys is permanent. Your body is attuned, your mind is aligned, and your endurance is intact. Fatigue is not failure. It is the footprint of your inner strength at work, quietly orchestrating stability in ways that are only now becoming clear. It is your system speaking to you, revealing that you have already survived the pressure before you even recognized it. Chosen one. What you have been experiencing is not random pressure or sporadic challenge. There is an unseen structure at work, a subtle orchestration of influence and tension that is unfolded around you in precise ways. You may not have seen it, but forces have been coordinating, aligning, and testing aspects of your life intentionally. This pressure is not chaotic. It is structured. It is present, consistent, and designed to engage your capabilities, often without you being fully conscious of it. The timing has always mattered. There were moments when the weight intensified suddenly, when decisions felt urgent or energy seemed to drain inexplicably. These were not isolated incidents. They were part of a larger pattern. The pressure was applied in measured increments, enough to stimulate awareness, enough to test endurance, but never so overwhelming that you could not continue to function. You remained operational, present, and coherent, even while the situation was complex, layered, or demanding. That is the quiet truth of what has occurred. Chosen one. Notice that your functionality under pressure is evidence of more than simple persistence. It is proof that your internal systems, physical, emotional, cognitive, are calibrated to handle intensity. While the world might have assumed that anyone under such circumstances would falter, you moved forward. You maintained clarity when confusion could have dominated. You preserved composure when disarray pressed from multiple directions. The unseen pressure tested, but it did not destabilize you. This is not a matter of heroics or extraordinary will. It is a matter of structure. The stability you displayed was automatic, regulated by processes within you that have been quietly refined over time. Every decision made under strain, every moment where you could have recoiled but did not, is proof that your internal architecture is resilient. It has been actively supporting you even when you felt unsure or exposed. The unfolding of these pressures was coordinated, not accidental. Each wave, each moment of tension, each subtle confrontation has contributed to your current state of awareness. Your ability to navigate without panic, to maintain focus without collapse, and to process events without losing coherence reflects an internal system designed to respond, adapt, and endure. This system operates whether you consciously recognize it or not. Chosen one, remain attentive to the patterns you have already sensed. They are not illusions, and they are not coincidences. The invisible forces that have pressed against you were intentional in timing and composition. And though you may have felt exposed at times, you were never unprotected. Your internal stability, your ability to maintain function under unseen pressure, and your continued presence in the face of challenge are evidence of protection. Not external dramatic protection, but a quiet, consistent shield, rooted in the very core of who you are. Chosen one, to understand what you move through it helps to slow the experience down and examine it in parts. Not to dramatize it, not to relive it emotionally, but to see it clearly. When pressure is continuous, the mind tends to blur it into one heavy mass. Yet what you endured was not one thing. It came in distinct forms, each pressing on a different internal point, each testing a different aspect of your stability. And through all of them, you remained intact. The first pressure point was doubt. Not loud, not dramatic but persistent. It showed up as quiet questioning, subtle second-guessing, a low-level uncertainty about timing direction or whether your efforts were registering at all. This doubt did not paralyze you. You did not spiral into indecision. You noticed it, carried it, and continued forward anyway. That matters. Many people collapse here. You did not. You functioned with doubt present, which reveals regulation, not denial. The second pressure point was fear, but not fear in the obvious sense. It was anticipatory fear. The sense that something could go wrong even when nothing visibly was. A background alertness, a heightened awareness that required constant internal calibration. For most people, this kind of fear drains the system quickly. It leads to avoidance or overreaction. You did neither. You adjusted. You stayed engaged with life while holding uncertainty without letting it dictate your behavior. The third pressure point was energy drain. This was perhaps the most noticeable. Not exhaustion that comes from overwork alone, but depletion without clear cause. Days where motivation dipped unexpectedly. Moments where your body asked for stillness even when your responsibilities continued. What matters is that you did not abandon yourself here. You did not self-destruct or disengage. You compensated intelligently. You slowed when needed. You conserved when possible. You remained present. That is, internal regulation at work. The fourth pressure point was isolation, not always physical solitude, but the sense of being alone inside your experience. You may have felt that explaining what you were carrying would not translate, that others would misunderstand or minimize it. Isolation like this often leads to emotional withdrawal or bitterness. You chose neither. You stayed open enough to function, but protected enough to remain coherent. That balance is rare. The fifth pressure point was delay. Progress that seemed just out of reach. Resolution that appeared postponed without explanation. This kind of pressure erodes patience and self-trust. Many interpret delay as failure. You did not. You held position. You continued to show up without demanding immediate payoff. That restraint indicates deep internal stability. Chosen one. Notice the pattern. Each pressure point targeted a different system: cognition, emotion, energy, connection, timing. And yet none of them dismantled you. You adapted across all of them simultaneously. Not by force, not by denial, but by regulation, by coherence, by an inner steadiness that did not require constant conscious effort. This is why it is accurate to say you stood unprotected and yet were covered. Not because something dramatic intervened, but because your internal structure absorbed what was applied. You were not spared pressure. You were built to withstand it. And that distinction changes how you understand everything that came before this moment. Chosen one, now it is time to reflect on what you have just moved through. Look at the path not as a series of random events, nor as a collection of coincidences, but as a sequence that required evaluation and understanding. When you examine it, patterns emerge. The fatigue, the subtle tension, the anticipatory stress, they were not signs of weakness or mismanagement. They were indicators of resilience. You responded to each challenge with coherence without letting it fracture your focus or derail your actions. Consider how often you faced moments where most people would have collapsed under pressure. Small decisions that felt monumental, interactions that carried invisible weight, delays that tested patience. You remained present. You continued to navigate life without letting the external pressures overwhelm you. There is clarity here. Your stability was internal, reliable, and consistent. It did not depend on conditions being favorable. It did not require that circumstances align perfectly. It operated because your internal mechanisms are attuned to maintain equilibrium. Chosen one realized that this stability is not a matter of luck or chance. There was no accidental endurance at play. You did not stumble forward by fluke. Each response, each measured adjustment, each instance of continuing despite pressure was evidence of internal coherence. You have maintained a structure that holds under stress. The strength that supported you was always present. It was not invoked in moments of crisis. It is a baseline of who you are. Reflection also brings confirmation. Every time you thought you might falter, your internal system recalibrated. Every time confusion pressed against clarity, your discernment cut through it. Every time delay threatened frustration, your patience held firm. This is not heroism. It is functioning as designed. Functioning as someone with calibrated resilience, with stable cognition, with consistent presence of mind. Notice, too, that this coherence extends beyond self-management. You maintained connection where necessary energy, where required attention, where it mattered most. You did not overextend or collapse into inaction. That is evidence of evaluation at a systemic level. Your nervous system, your mind, your focus, and your emotional regulation all work together to create a stable output in the face of multiple concurrent pressures. Chosen one. Take a moment to recognize that the endurance you have shown is not simply surviving. It is processing. It is integrating. It is maintaining internal alignment while external circumstances are misaligned. And in this recognition, you can see that what you once viewed as chaos or overwhelm was in fact a rigorous test of coherence. A test you have passed not by luck, not by external intervention, but by the natural functioning of your own structure. This is the foundation on which all understanding going forward will rest. The clarity comes not from accolades or acknowledgement, but from recognizing that your presence, your endurance, and your regulation are inherently sufficient. You are stable. You are coherent. And this realization anchors every next step you will take. Chosen one. Now consider how uncommon your stability truly is. Look at the people around you. Observe how often even small pressures cause distraction, collapse, or disorientation. Ordinary stress, delays, fatigue, or uncertainty can unseat many. Most respond with reaction rather than regulation. They pivot, they fracture, they overcompensate. You, however, maintained function without fanfare. You navigated without disruption. Your ability to remain present and coherent under sustained pressure is not a claim of superiority. It is a reflection of rarity. Rare does not mean better, nor does it imply that others are weak. It simply indicates that the combination of your internal architecture, your calibration, and your attentiveness has allowed you to remain operational when most would falter. This is a distinction worth noting because it situates your experience in context. You are not an outlier by circumstance. You are uncommon by internal structure. Chosen one. Imagine two people facing the same tension. One succumbs to anxiety, frustration, or exhaustion. The other, like you, continues forward with stability intact. That difference is subtle in the moment, almost invisible. Yet over time, the consequences are profound. Stability allows insight, clarity, and consistent action. It allows you to perceive patterns, respond accurately, and make decisions without being hijacked by pressure. That is exactly what you demonstrated repeatedly. Notice, too, that your rarity is not dramatic. It does not announce itself in feats or declarations. It exists quietly in the way you absorb stress without losing composure, how you navigate uncertainty without panic, and how you maintain clarity without forcing it. This kind of rare steadiness is uncelebrated, yet it underlies every meaningful outcome. It is the silent foundation that ensures you move through life without fracturing under weight. Compare yourself not for ego, but for understanding. Many would have been unmoored by what you endured. Many would have mismanaged energy, misread circumstances, or become distracted by fear and doubt. You, however, were not unmoored. You were not reactive. You were not dependent on external reassurance or alignment. You operated as intended with calm, functional, rare coherence. Chosen One, recognize that the rarity of your response is simply a reflection of the alignment you carry within. It does not inflate identity, nor does it require justification. It is the natural result of your internal structure, a structure capable of withstanding pressure, maintaining function, and remaining coherent while the ordinary would falter. Understanding this distinction situates you accurately stable, rare, grounded, and fully prepared for what follows. Chosen One. It is time to clarify exactly what your strength represents. This is not a temporary burst or an activated power. It is not something you switch on when situations become extreme. Your stability, your endurance, and your coherence are baseline characteristics of who you are. They are embedded within your internal architecture, quietly operating, whether you are consciously aware of them or not. You have been preparing consciously and unconsciously through patterns of thought, experience, and regulation. Every situation that tested patience, every moment of delay, every pressure point you faced has contributed to a maturity that now exists as a foundation. This foundation is not flashy. It does not require validation. It simply is. And it allows you to move through life with reliability, even when circumstances are unpredictable. Chosen One. Notice that inner coherence is different from activated effort. Activated effort is reactive. It responds to pressure once it is perceived. Coherence, on the other hand, operates continuously. It does not spike or drop. It absorbs, processes, and stabilizes. That is why you remained functional under pressure. Why fatigue or uncertainty did not dismantle your capacity, and why moments that would have derailed most people left you intact. Your baseline strength is preparation, made tangible, resilience, made practical, and maturity, made operational. This is also why you were covered even when you stood unprotected. Not by external shields, not by dramatic intervention, but by an internal system that has been honed to withstand, regulate, and maintain presence. It is consistent, it is reliable, and it is yours. No one else can duplicate the specific calibration you carry. No one else can replicate the exact way your mind, body, and awareness work together to produce steadiness under unseen pressure. Chosen One. Recognize that this clarification is essential. Your identity is anchored in functional resilience, not circumstance. You are coherent, not because life was easy, but because your internal structure permits you to remain coherent through complexity. This is not a gift to be summoned. It is the natural manifestation of the integration of your preparation, awareness, and internal regulation. Let this understanding settle within you. The baseline of who you are, the steadiness, the endurance, the clarity under pressure is not extraordinary by external standard, but it is fully sufficient. It is your framework. It is your signature. And it is the reason you were able to move through what others could not, silently, steadily, and without disruption. Chosen One, now let us bring this awareness into practical integration. You have lived through tension, subtle pressure, and moments that demanded coherence without conscious effort. The next step is to allow that awareness to inform your daily orientation without overcomplicating life. Begin by observing your own rhythms. Rest is not optional, it is essential. Allow your body and mind the space to recover, to recalibrate, to integrate the pressures you have already absorbed. Discernment is another pillar. Notice where energy is well spent and where it dissipates without return. Do not overcommit. Do not confuse persistence with exhaustion. Your internal structure will continue to function, but it thrives when you move intentionally, when your attention is guided rather than scattered. Boundaries are not limitations. They are the practical manifestation of this discernment. Setting clear lines around your time, energy, and focus prevents unnecessary friction and preserves stability. Patience is essential as well. Many of the pressures you have experienced came in sequences that required timing, understanding, and delayed resolution. Recognize that patience is not passivity. It is active observation. It is the ability to remain engaged while allowing the natural flow of circumstances to unfold. Your endurance has already proven this skill exists within you. Integration now means applying it calmly and consistently. Focus is another practical orientation. When external events or internal tension attempt to pull you off course, return attention to the present task. Short, manageable segments of attention yield more stability than overextension. Your internal coherence is reinforced by small, intentional actions rather than reactive bursts. This is how you consolidate experience into usable insight. Chosen one. Balance is the overarching theme. You do not need to hyper-vigilantly scan for pressure. You do not need to anticipate every hidden factor. You need awareness tempered by calm presence, reinforced by measured action and observation, guided by integration. In doing so, your internal structure continues to operate efficiently, while your external life unfolds with clarity and purpose. Finally, reflection is practical. Periodically assess how your energy, attention, and focus align with the life you are building. This is not about judgment. It is about feedback, a quiet adjustment that ensures coherence between what you are what you have endured, what you have integrated, and how you now move forward. The pressures you faced are now lessons in operational structure, not burdens to carry endlessly. Chosen one. These practical orientations rest discernment boundaries, patience, focus, reflection, create a foundation for integration. They allow awareness to become habitual, stability to become natural, and presence to become functional. Your internal coherence, once observed, now informs daily life, guiding you without struggle and consolidating the rare steadiness you already embody. Chosen one. Now take a moment to settle into the reality of what you have just recognized. You were never unprotected. You stood in tension, yet your internal structure carried you. You endured fatigue, uncertainty, and subtle pressure, and you remained coherent, functional, and present. That is the truth you need to carry forward. Affirm this quietly: I am stable, I am coherent, I am sufficient. These statements are not boasts. They are acknowledgments of reality. Your endurance was real, your discernment was accurate, and your internal alignment was intact. Let these truths take root without resistance or doubt. They describe who you are, not who you hope to be. Chosen one. If you recognize this within yourself, mark it with a code. Write 777 or comment, I remember. This is not for show. It is a signal to yourself that you see your own coherence, your own endurance, and your own baseline strength. Each time you affirm it, you reinforce the quiet protection and stability that has carried you through invisible pressures. Count to observe, integrate, and move forward with calm certainty. Your baseline strength allows you to navigate complexity without chaos. It allows you to remain steady even when external conditions fluctuate. This is the foundation for all the next steps in your life. You do not need to create it, summon it, or justify it. It exists naturally within you. Finally, stay engaged. Subscribe for the next message, the next insight, and the continuation of understanding. The path is ongoing, and awareness grows as you remain present. You have seen clearly now you were covered even when you stood unprotected. That knowledge, once internalized, becomes a quiet guide for every decision, every interaction, and every challenge yet to come. Chosen one, breathe. Receive. Remember, you are intact. You are coherent. You are covered.